ADHD Babes, the podcast, a podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDBabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast.
ADHD Babes, the podcast is introducing Dear Babes. We want to hear from you. Don't be shy. We know you have questions and we are here to answer them. Send your questions on how to manage the post-diagnosis/self-diagnosis grief. And we have Vivian Esebo, psychological practitioner, MSc, and Jay Reed, JD, MSW, and certified therapist, ready on our special Dear Babes episodes to answer your questions. So don't forget to check out the episode to see if your question was selected. Leave a question for us using the link in the show notes. Closing dates for submission is the 25th of August 2024.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of ADHD Babes the podcast. Thank you to everyone who's joined us by listening so far. Don't forget to follow so you never miss an episode, and also rate, review and share so that others can find us too. Today's episode is hosted by me, Sabrina, and today we're going to be discussing boundaries, rules, the differences between them and how they can further intimacy and foster deep connections with yourself and others. Joining in on the discussion, we are joined by our ADHD babes, Amina and TJ. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, welcome both of you. Thank you so much for joining. So that our listeners can get to know you a bit better, can you both introduce yourself, your pronouns, and a bit about what you do? So, TJ, let's start with you.
I'm TJ. My full name is Tabisa Joy. Tabisa means joy in Hausa, my home language. I'm queer and non-binary. I use they them pronouns. I'm originally from Cape Town, South Africa, so I grew up in Cape Town, but I studied and worked in London for about 6 years. And yeah, I'm an OG ADHD Babes. It was me in lockdown in my mother's house. And yeah, I'm a filmmaker, screenwriter, a Gemini, and just a lover and a friend. And I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the intro. And Amina, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Amina. My pronouns are she, her. I work in retail. And just to remind you a little bit of your question, so just introduce myself. But I think there's a little addendum to the question. But yeah, glad to be here.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to dive into this episode. So I wanted to ask you both, what are your definition of boundaries? TJ, we'll start with you.
I would say my definition of boundaries is essentially certain communication put in place to honor yourself and the person that you're in relationship with. Essentially just having that kind of clear boundary to some support kind of emotional care and respect.
Yeah, and Amina, how about you?
I would describe them as a set of, I don't want to use the word rules, but I can't think of another one right now, but as a set of rules that allows you to maintain close relationships, actually. And I don't see them as walls. I see them as things that you can share with people to make it safe for you to keep them in your life, for example. Yeah, if they respect them, that is.
Yeah, and how has a lack of boundaries impacted your past relationships? TJ?
Yeah, they impacted my relationships in quite a significant way. But I would say in the most way, I would say it led to a lot of, I guess, hurt and discomfort on both sides. And a lot of just emotional, not the healthiest sort of emotional bonds where, I just feel like there was there wasn't a clear understanding of what that was. And as much as I'm someone who is very direct and I like communicating, I realized that I kind of left things to assumption and I didn't actually clarify like a boundary. I just assumed like, oh, but you know me, I've said what I like, what I don't like, how I feel, but I wasn't clear enough. And I don't think I necessarily set the boundaries. I just assumed a lot that if you say something once, then it's understood. So yeah, I think it impacted them essentially either leading in a breakup or um, I guess leading in a healthier kind of dynamic where very intentional about setting those boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really relatable. Amina, how about you? How has boundaries impacted your relationships?
I think a lack of boundaries with self definitely attributed to the breakdown of my marriage. Um, and I think a lack of boundaries, again, surrounding the things I would like to do or not do, and not following that through, has led to a certain amount of uh, stress in the body. And I think it's led to a decline in health, really, when you don't want to do something, but somehow you feel compelled to do it through lack of boundaries, through wanting to people please and stuff like that. So yeah, I found it quite damaging, to be fair. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you for sharing experiences with us. Really appreciate that. I think what we've established is that boundaries are about what you are willing to do and what you're not willing to do and what makes you feel comfortable or safe. And boundaries are about maintaining well-being for yourself. So setting boundaries in a way is kind of a promise with yourself about where you identify your needs and communicate what you'd like for yourself. And with boundaries as well, it's not about other people or necessarily setting rules or parameters around other people, and it's not about telling another person what to do either. So sometimes it can be difficult to know the difference between rules and restrictions on other people and boundaries. So can you tell the difference? Like, have you ever made a rule for somebody, but then you think it's a boundary? TJ, let's start with you.
Uh, yeah, for sure. For sure. I think I even just based on your definition, Sabrina, in my mind, I assume that essentially the boundaries are both for me and for the other person, and not kind of thinking about like, oh, they can set their own boundaries and that has nothing to do with me. But I would say, I think one of the main rules is I really struggle with time blindness. And I guess I made a rule not to essentially rush me. um, if if you haven't communicated kind of what are the parameters or how long I need to take or something. But I guess I guess I thought it was a boundary to kind of say I don't like being rushed. I get really overwhelmed. I struggle with time. And I thought just saying that was a boundary, but I feel like I didn't really get into I didn't always receive that people kind of honored that boundary, and maybe because it was a rule, I don't know. I'm not even sure if I really know the difference, but I thought sort of just saying that was a boundary, but it took a lot more kind of clarity to make it not a rule but an actual boundary that was understood by
Yeah.
people I'm in relationship with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. I think there's a very fine line between rule and boundary as well, and it's
Mm,
really difficult to know. Amina, how about you?
Yeah. I just wanted to piggyback on what TJ said about parameters, because from my perspective, listening to what they just said, to me that did sound like a boundary, and it sounded like a loving boundary because it gave room for flexibility. Maybe if it was communicated as such, I need parameters of time that I can work within, and so on and so forth. But and again, I agree with what Peter said as it relates to boundaries, not necessarily only being for the self, but I think boundaries really should start with self. And when they don't, resentment can store in the body. That's not really healthy for anyone.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we're going to play a little bit of a game. We're going to switch things up. So this game is boundary versus rule. So I'm going to read out a statement and then I'll pick one of you and then you can tell me if you think it's a boundary or a rule. So the first one, you need to drive me around when it gets dark because I don't like driving when it's dark. So TJ, we'll start with you. Boundary or rule?
A rule.
Yes, it's a rule because it
Yeah.
focuses on the other person's behavior. Okay, next one. I will leave early tomorrow as I don't drive when it's raining and it's going to rain tomorrow evening. Amina, boundary or rule?
That sounds like a gorgeous, loving boundary to me.
Yeah, it's a boundary. So you've identified your own discomfort with driving in the rain and then you've explained your plan of action. So the next one, if you want to get in my car, you must stay quiet so I can concentrate. TJ, boundary or rule?
I feel like boundary because it seems like you're communicating what you need from the other person or what you would like to be sort of respected.
So this one is actually a rule, even though you
Mm,
explained your reasoning. So yeah, that was a bit of a tough one.
mm,
Just to add in there, because I don't think the scriptwriter actually did it, but that one's also linked to the first one that you did, TJ, where it's focusing on the other person's behavior, and that's where
okay. That's where the rule comes in.
exactly.
And I'm going to do the last one now. Amina, this one's going to go to you. I normally drive in silence. It's important to me so I can concentrate. I don't continue the journey when I'm distracted. Boundary or rule?
That is a boundary.
Yep, so it's a
And
boundary.
thank you for the from Shauna, because again, it was focusing on my behaviour, not the other person.
Yeah, so your needs have been stated and the actions you take to protect your boundaries have been stated as well. So, yeah, I wanted to ask you both, what are your thoughts on that little game? Amina, what are your thoughts?
I actually enjoyed that, and I was just reflecting at, I think, a text message I sent either last night or the night before, and I'm going to have to read it back again just to see, did I actually state a boundary or did I state a rule? So yeah, I look forward to stating more boundaries because the distinction, again, that Shauna just spoke about, focusing on what I should be doing, what I need to do, rather than what I may want the person to do for me. I think that's where it lies for me. So that was a helpful game. Thanks.
Thank you. And TJ, what did you think of the little game that we just did?
I actually found it quite helpful because I don't know if I kind of thought about the definition just from my kind of my needs and my behavior. I think a lot of the time I saw it as essentially both people in relationship communicating, but I really liked Amina's answers because I realized, oh yeah, even just kind of when she said boundary, I was like, oh yeah, that is a boundary, not a rule, even though my head was like, that sounds like a rule. So, yeah, I appreciate that. I was kind of like, not me not knowing the difference, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? It's a good way to kind of be clear. And that's
But if
helpful.
I may, also, and I was going to say, sorry to interject just now, leading on from what you were saying, TJ, those boundaries that we have set for ourselves, and then we find ourselves in a situation, and then we don't go through with what we said we were going to do, irrespective of, like you say, any outside. I think when we break those boundaries,
Yeah.
those are the ones that kind of, get me the most because you can't look to anybody else to say, well, you did this or you did not do that. You did it yourself. And I think a lot of the
Yeah.
time us neurodiverse people are really, really so very aware of those things. But again, and I'm talking to myself, like trying to maintain, implement, enforce your own personal boundaries with yourself is part of the part of our whole, so to speak. So
Exactly.
having these conversations, and especially having these conversations with other women and other non-binary people as well. It's very, very helpful. And I'm waffling, so sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with Amina. It's helpful because honestly, like, if I'm being honest, it took me majority of my 20s to really actually understand how to set them for myself and also how to like commit to them and not just kind of communicate, but then not stick to them myself. And I thought when I read in lockdown, when I read Set Boundaries Find Peace by Nedra Tawab Blava, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I understand it. But it took me a while to really implement it and not just kind of understand it in words, but really be like, wow, can I do this for myself? So yeah, I'm glad I'm here now. I'm glad I'm here now because that was a lot. Yeah, not having them was genuinely just too chaotic for me, and yeah, I'm just glad that I'm on the other side.
Yeah, it can take a while to implement the boundaries as well. Like it can literally take years sometimes just to set those for yourself. But it is basically anything you decide based on your own needs. So, for example, like if you prefer one-on-one settings rather than like a group of settings with friends, the first part of boundary setting is admitting that group settings make you uncomfortable. So just like not doing group settings at all. And then once you've identified your needs, then it's about committing to the boundaries and then like letting other people know, communicating that to everybody else that care about you. So like for example, if a friend asks you if you want to join in for a group of drinks, and then because you know group settings make you feel uncomfortable, you can literally just say to them, not coming, I prefer one-on-one situations. And then like that's just it. So you haven't told your friend, like your friend can still go for drinks, it's just like me, myself, I'm not coming. I don't want to be there. I'm not going to get FOMO. It's fine. And then you've set those boundaries for yourself. But I think it's difficult for people with ADHD to identify boundaries and set boundaries because they've not necessarily been taught how to like we haven't been taught how to identify our own needs in some cases. And then sometimes we haven't even been taught how to prioritize, like we've been taught to prioritize other people's feelings first and to people please as well. So I think that's a massive, massive issue. So I wanted to ask both of you, like, how have you been able to identify your own needs? And then what has helped you to do that? So TJ, we'll start with you.
I would say, I mean, as a recovering people pleaser, and I used to be like, no, that's not me, and I low key judge everyone else and be like, you're people pleasers. I don't do that. But in reflection, I can tell that yeah, that's definitely something I struggled with, and I feel like the question was again, how did I set them?
So how did you identify your own needs? Like, what is it that you put in place so you sit with yourself, like, these are my boundaries, like what helped you? Because I know you said you read a book that helped you, but like, was there any other practices?
I would say honestly, having quiet time with myself, right? I'd call it TJ, take care time, where I think the more could hear the voice in my head and I wasn't constantly stimulated or around people that I care about, it's the first time I kind of realized, wow, I have chest pains. Like I'm, and I couldn't connect the two with a lack of boundaries, meaning like, oh, I'm overwhelmed or I'm really anxious about, um, my needs and them not being met. So I would probably say when I first started kind of somatic breath work and meditation really kind of it solidified to me that whoa, like that was not safe for me. And I can't believe I just would be in that situation because I kind of just assumed that I would be fine. And I also enjoy so much kind of showing up for people I love. And also just I'm excited about showing up because, yeah, like I'm a people's person and a social butterfly. So for me, it's like, oh, I never get tired. Like I'm an extrovert. But yeah, the first time I had that time alone to just kind of breathe and really ask myself, like, why do you feel like that after that? Is when I really knew I could kind of name that feeling and then set that boundary.
So, guys, I just want to put my 2 cents in here. I know I'm supposed to be producer today, but I couldn't help myself. So, one of the things that I've recently been using to understand my triggers is my smartwatch. So, my smartwatch, I have a Samsung Galaxy watch. And one of the things that it can do is monitor your stress levels constantly throughout the day. So I'm able to go back. I'm able to go back, and I'll show you guys. I'm able to go back through my day and see at what time of day I was kind of getting stressed. And I'll show you yesterday. So it literally has a graph. So I got stressed at all these red times, and I can actually see when I was stressed, and I can be like, okay, what was I doing at that? That obviously stresses me out. And actually that for me, I didn't even realize I was stressed at those times. So the fact that I can actually go back and be like, whoa, that's actually high stress level. I'm like, okay, what was I doing at that point? I was doing X, Y, Z. I need to note that down and like progress that. So I just want you to know, like, if you're like me and you just sitting with yourself is not going to be enough. Smart technology is great.
What is it, Samsung Galaxy? Because I'm like,
so, yeah, I have the Samsung Galaxy watch, but I believe Apple do it as well. Like, like this, so they do similar functions. But yeah, one of the things that the watch will do is continually monitor certain things like stress, your heart rate. It also monitors my temperature at night so that I can monitor my cycle.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love
your exercise and everything like that. But yeah, I'm not trying to, you know me in technology, guys, but I'm not trying to push that. But one of the features that I think in this scenario is really helpful is just going, actually, that really stressed me out and I didn't even realize I was getting stressed. What was I doing? And being able to reflect that way. So there's my 2 cents. I'm going to go back to being a producer now. Bye.
Bye.
That is really wild because that's a lot of cortisol going around the body. So, yeah, that is so wild. Wow.
I'm just like, damn, these apps, the accommodations that are made.
Also, if you're not a fan of watches, I believe they're starting to make rings that do that. So
Stop it. Stop. Wow.
I love rings, by the way. So I would choose the ring and not the watch. Probably.
Amina, we can hear you, so you can go. But yeah, Samsung are coming out with a new ring. I'm waiting to be bought one because I could just wear that tonight, monitor everything that I just said, your heart rate, everything like that. I also do my blood pressure on my thing. Like if you're an ADHD, taking medication, ADHD medication. Obviously, you know about monitoring your blood pressure constantly. It does that too. So yeah, I'll do an episode on smart tech.
You deserve a paid partnership, Shauna. You deserve a paid partnership because, like, come on, guys.
I was actually thinking the same thing as well. That ring sounds really, really sick. So, yeah, I would actually get the ring because I can't do watches because I don't know why. They don't fit me. Yeah, I think so. We've got the tech. The tech is helping us, but we've got the inner voice as well. So it's important to look within and reflect on what we like and how we want to navigate our relationships with the wilder world. And also, as well, I've noticed without boundaries, you can often feel a sense of resentment, like you can feel violated that your boundaries have been crossed multiple times. And then, as well, like the people around us, they're not mind readers. So we have to speak up, say our boundaries, identify them. We can't wait for other people to highlight our boundaries for us after the resentment has already built up within us. Or we just end up like during an argument just exploding, and then we can't
Yeah.
really have those deep connections and that intimacy. Do you
Mm.
ever feel like that where you're just saying yes to everybody, people pleasing, and then you end up resenting other people? TJ, has that ever happened with you?
Absolutely is. Like, what do you mean? Like, that's definitely my brand. And I think I guess I would blow up in a way that I didn't even think it was a tantrum. I would just kind of, I would, I feel just communicate in not the healthiest way. And I also, it was just so hurtful because even I was like, oh, how did I get here? And it's just, yeah, it impacted me very negatively until I really sat with myself and kind of realized that. But it was hard because, you don't just become, people pleasing doesn't just happen overnight. Like, I think I had built that habit from childhood. And because I was rewarded for being, chatty and charismatic and loud, and I kind of felt like, oh, if I'm valued for that, then surely this is the only way I'm gonna really receive love. Until I really was like, actually, no, that's not true. And I guess I just valued the part of me that knew I didn't want to resent people that I cared about to the point where I wouldn't even communicate that resentment. I would just kind of be mute, and like no one would see me for like, I just tap out for a few days, but not actually communicate how that felt for me. Or realize that I could even set a boundary and say my needs. I just kind of didn't. Like, it might sound silly, but I genuinely just didn't know that was a thing. And I don't know if that's just generally ADHD and this idea that, like, if we've always been raised under like atypical standards and not necessarily accommodating neurodiverse people, I was just like, oh, that can't happen. So then I would just mask the fact that I'm low key about to have a tantrum or I'm high key resenting this person, and not really, like, not understand that that's what was required of me. So I think that, that might be unfair that we have to kind of be in a society that isn't always accommodating to people with ADHD or, neurodiverse people. But I realized that, you know, outside of that, all it really took was me expressing that. Yeah, and I'm just happy that I did, because it just wasn't sustainable. Like, losing people, that I care about. Even now, just reflecting, like, friendship breakups, like ex partners. There's a lot that I genuinely feel like, wow, I just didn't do that well. And it's so clear when I did that in other relationships that I've had for, plus 10, 20 years, sometimes my whole, with my mother, my whole life. Yeah, I realized that you can grow and change. And, once you kind of know better, you realize I just have to like dip when I feel tired or resentful. I really can just communicate. But yeah, that's been difficult, but I'm also just happy that I'm here. I'm at this place with myself now where I can do that for TJ.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned ADHD and people pleasing, because I've spoken to other ADHDers and they've also said like the people pleasing is a huge, huge thing. And then, yeah, I feel like you're right as well, where you're saying if we're raised under neurotypical standards, then
Mm,
we kind of like people please to overcompensate. So I wanted to ask you as well, Amina, like what do you think about all of this? Like, has your lack of boundaries ever led to resentment?
100, 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, 1,000,000,000% it has. And I think in those proper depths of despair, when you're actually reflecting on all of the things that you have done, and how you want to shift blame, and like all of these conflicting emotions surrounding perhaps you not saying no, or surrounding you saying yes to something that you didn't want to say yes to. um, I've found that
mm,
in my marriage, resentment even now, and we've been divorced nearly, I think, coming up 3 years now. recently I had to send a text to inform them of something, but it meant that I had to let go of something. And I'd been having a conversation with myself about this text for years, well, months, I should say. And one of the reasons why I hadn't sent it is because I had said to myself, if I send this text message, meaning that I have to let go of this thing that I have resentment about, it means that I have to commit to it. And I hadn't committed to it yet. And when I did send a text message, it felt really good to send it. But then I got pissed off all again because they were really happy that I sent them the text message to kind of get them off the hook, so to speak. So it's like, well, now I'm questioning myself, have I committed to this thing that I want to let go of? So there's that. And then also with my children, because I have 4 children. And my eldest is 25 and my youngest is 16. And I think, you know, I have a lot of fears around boundaries with my children, how to implement them, how to show them, how to teach them, because TD is right, TJ is correct with the ADHD side of things. Sometimes we haven't been taught these things. We don't know how to do these things. And this conversation with those very words I've had with each of my children, and I found that to be a real blessing. And I say to myself sometimes, okay, if I don't really and truly manage to implement this idea of boundaries fully across the whole spectrum of my life, at least let me just be raw and vulnerable with them and show them and tell them why. And I've been doing that and that helps. But, you know, you've got to do it for yourself. You still have to do it for yourself. And therein lies the rub. And I'll just end on one thing. I remember I wanted to go and see somebody, but I knew it wasn't good for me to go and see that somebody, to the point where I was outside of their house arguing with myself. Am I going to ring the buzzer or am I going to go home? And it was a real tug of war. And I went home and I was so proud of myself. So again, coming back in with that positive self-talk and that little pat on the back, even though we ADHDers, it takes us a little while to kind of make that a firm habit. But knowing I can do that, you know, that's some solace. But resentment is deep, man. And working on that still.
It is, yeah. I think what we've established today is that we have to be really open and honest about our needs and honor ourselves and honor our relationships by being vulnerable, speaking our truth, and also giving others the opportunity to demonstrate the respect that they have for us by us setting our boundaries. So I wanted to also share something with us. Our scriptwriter, Debs, she has come up with 3 tips in relation to boundaries. So, number 1, to set boundaries, it's important to first understand and identify your needs. 2, you can establish your boundaries in a long-term relationship, and it's never too late to express them. And also, number 3, think about boundaries as a promise to yourself to protect your well-being and invite others to do the same for you as well, rather than kind of imposing restrictions and rules on other people. So we're coming towards the end of our episode. So I wanted to recap what has been spoken about. So Amina, what have you learned from our discussion today? And was there anything that you found particularly interesting?
I think one of the most important things that I've learned, and hopefully it will stay cemented, is that boundaries are not to be used to control another's behavior. You use them to control your own. And I don't even like to use that word, but I know you know what I mean. That is, I think, the most important takeaway for me from today. Thank you.
And TJ, how about you? What have you learned? And was there anything that you found particularly interesting, what we've talked about today?
I honestly agree with Amina. Just that distinction that, you know, it's really not about sort of convincing or controlling someone else's behavior, but ultimately, I guess you honoring yourself invites people in relationship with you to honor you. And it sounds so simple, but I think sometimes even just the reiteration really helps, because I've set boundaries and had to kind of implement and reset them purely because I would move between understanding them and being able to enact them myself, and then also just changing them based on the dynamic and how a relationship grows. And I guess what I found interesting, honestly, it's what Shauna said about this tech and like what? Like to me, because listen, I'm an app child, okay? Like I have apps for like everything. And I'm just open to trying apps, and I really, really like when I don't have to always rely on the fact that I need to create a space for me to kind of have solitude and have time for myself. Sometimes I'm not able to do that, and I kind of have a really busy day, but just I think it's interesting that you can kind of reflect with technology when you have time to do that. So that was really interesting and I just love apps that I feel like accommodate people with ADHD, even if it might accommodate other neurotypical people too. But wow, that's for me, like, love that. Sign me up. Like, at this point, like, I want to wear the ring. I'm even going to re-download Instagram if I ever get the ring, just to be like, I said this on this episode. Apple Watch, Samsung. If you're hearing this, babes, I will advertise. I will do the branding just for the ring. Like, I'm at Tabitha Joy. Like, I deactivated, but I will come back just because. What do you mean? A ring? It's not even on my phone. It probably doesn't even die. So it's like, who doesn't want to flash like that? You are, babe. That one convinced me to the T. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I really, really liked the boundary versus rule game. I thought that was a lot of fun. I really liked that.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much, Amina and TJ, for joining us today. We've actually come to the end of the episode.
Thank you for having
And
me.
it's really been a pleasure to chat to both of you and learn more about you. So, please, would you let our listeners know where they can connect with you? So, give us your socials and your websites. TJ, please.
So it's at Tabitha Joy, TABISAJOY, but because that's pretty much mainly on Instagram, I feel like X and TikTok is a little bit overwhelming, but yeah, primarily just on Instagram. But I have taken a break, but like Loki might come back literally just like when they release the watch. Also, then I'll just tag ADHD Babes and be like, I was here and I said that. Like, but yeah, when I'm back from my kind of writing, my writing hibernation, that's where you can reach out to me. Yeah, that's where you can reach out to me when I'm back. I guess, yeah, I'm back on socials type thing.
Thank you. And Amina, how about you? What are your socials? Do you have any websites?
No websites, but you can catch me on Instagram at Solitude Skater.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Please feel free to follow our podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes, and follow at ADHD Babes on socials to continue the conversation. ADHD Babes members can also join the conversation on our members only Discord and WhatsApp groups. So do consider signing up and supporting us and doing more great work so that we can support you, our wonderful community of ADHD Babes. So once again, we'd love it if you could leave us a review and rate us and let everyone know your thoughts. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and need help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit adhdbabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.
Just as I am, can you